What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Totally Awesome Podcast, the TAP podcast. So bad it'll make you tap out. And I am your host, JoshAgeddon. And the music you're listening to right now is My Life, My Rules, not in a Jeff Hardy DVD, but the song by Combi Christ, which is going to be the theme song of the upcoming TAWUCT pay-per-view event, Adrenaline. So yeah, I got me a bitchin' theme song for that show. And of course, it's going to be it's going to be pretty much UCT's version of Extreme Rules, but it's neither here nor there. Basically, this episode is just me venting, and if you've already seen the title, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, back at WrestleMania 36, which, if you want to know my thoughts on WrestleMania 36, the previous episode is a review of that show. Me, the colonist, Sean McCarty, a good friend of mine, and the Skylar Greenberg, who was reincarnated as a set of notes, just talking about that show. Yeah, we talked about that show in detail, we gave our thoughts, so if you want to know our thoughts on that, go back and listen to the previous episode. But that show did get me thinking. One match in particular, the awful Braun Strowman versus Goldberg match for the WWE Universal Championship. And I really got to thinking after that match, because boy, do I have an opinion of the WWE Universal Championship. And it's an opinion that's probably shared by many. Let me preface this by saying, as much crap as I give WWE sometimes, I like a lot of their championships. Most of them look cool. Like the WWE title, the main title of the company. Like it's like a 50-year-old title. It's got prestige. A lot of cool things. Yeah, there's been some stupid things surrounding the WWE title during its tenure, but there's also been a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, I actually legitimately care about and like the WWE title, the main one. Other ones like the US title, the Intercontinental title, practically meaningless. The 24/7 title, it looks ugly, and it's a joke title. I wish they would just get rid of it, because it just means it's just a distraction from the show at this point. Tag team titles with tag team titles. When you get what I'm saying. But the WWE Universal Championship is something else. And before I get into that, I'm going to crack me open a nice Yoo-Hoo. I guess this podcast is sponsored by Yoo-Hoo. That just sounded good. Need something to sound good before I go into a tirade. And if Sean McCarty, the colonist, if you're listening to this, you know exactly where I'm going with this. I'm about to go into a Jim Cornette-style promo on this stupid belt. The WWE Universal Championship is quite possibly the worst world title I have ever seen for any wrestling company. It is the worst. Like, the name of the belt is stupid, the design of the belt sucks, and its lineage, its history, its reigns are awful. It's the worst belt. I hate it. The fact that it's on the same level as the WWE title is laughable, and it devalues the WWE World title. It's a joke. It's a parody of a world title. It is the worst world championship in the history of professional wrestling, or at least one of the worst. I cannot describe to you how much I hate that stupid blue and red strap. And yes, Vince, I'm using the word strap. Deal with it. That's a different rant for another day, but the belt sucks, and I'm going to get into why it sucks. It's a long, winding road of why this belt sucks. Yoo-Hoo's so good. I would honestly rather, if I was a professional wrestler, I would rather be drinking a bottle of Yoo-Hoo than wear the Universal Championship, because I have standards, I have dignity, and I like my taste buds. We're going to go back about 4 years, and I'm going to give like a narrative of this belt and why this belt's awful. So back in 2016, back when Dean Ambrose was the WWE champion, which is, considering like how WWE operates, and considering where Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley is now, the current AEW World Heavyweight Champion, it's bizarre to think that Jon Moxley was a once WWE champion. That's a crazy thing to think about. But, so he's the champion off of the Battleground 2016 pay-per-view, where he defeated Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins to retain the title. They bring back the brand split, which I was not crazy about. I mean, I kind of liked one show under one roof, just one brand, and I was worried that splitting the roster in half, they didn't have enough of a roster to split in half, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I wasn't crazy about bringing the bland split. Why do I keep saying that? The brand split with an R, Joshua. I was not crazy about them bringing the brand split back in 2016. I just didn't think it was a good idea. But they did, and Dean Ambrose, WWE Champion, was exclusive to SmackDown, so Raw had to come up with their own world title. And everyone was like, "Oh, wonder what is it going to be? Are they going to bring back the big gold belt?" Which, in retrospect, they should have. Are they going to make a new belt? What are they going to do? So they come out. I think it was the Raw after Battleground when they were preparing for SummerSlam. Which is actually a fantastic episode of Raw. It has 2 great Fatal 4-Way matches, and the main event is Finn Balor defeating Roman Reigns clean to earn a championship match against Seth Rollins at that year's SummerSlam. So that's a pretty good episode of Raw, all things considered. However, the first red flag was when, I think it was Stephanie McMahon, either her or Mick Foley, because Mick Foley was general manager of Raw at the time. They said that since it's we were all wondering, what's this title going to be called? Are they just going to bring back the World Heavyweight title? So they were like, since it's the WWE Universe, we're doing this for the WWE Universe or something like that, we're going to call it the WWE Universal Championship. Red flag number 1. It's a very minor red flag, but I still think it's worth pointing out that from day 1, it was already hinted at that this championship, and I use air quotes around championship, was going to be a useless pile of shit. Because, WWE World Heavyweight Championship, that sounds cool. The WWE Championship, it's simple, but it sounds like, that you represent the company. The United States Championship. You're the champion of a country. The World Heavyweight title, the Intercontinental title, and other companies, the way they name their titles. Just, titles are supposed to have, cool names. That, you're the best wrestler in the company, you're the best performer in the world. It's supposed to carry that connotation. What kind of connotation does Universal Champion bring? And I remember hearing someone say, since it's the Universal title, are they going to have, wrestlers with alien gimmicks? Which is funny now because WWE's not the one doing that. It's AEW that's doing that, which that's a whole nother conversation. But are people from Mars going to come and challenge for this championship since it's the Universal Championship? Are we going to have extra-dimensional characters come in and wrestle for this belt? Can we defend the title on the moon? The only way I will forgive the name Universal Championship is if one day that is the first championship that is defended on the moon. But that's not going to happen for that's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. If WWE's even around. If I don't outlive WWE, which, considering some decisions they make, makes me wonder if I'm going to outlive WWE as a company. But, yeah, so right off the bat, the Universal Championship. It's a stupid name. It is a stupid name. I hate it. I've always hated it, and I will always hate it. It's a stupid name for the belt. Because it makes you think, are we going to defend it in space? Or are we going to defend it against aliens? It must be more important than the world title, because universe is bigger than world. It's just a belt that sounds like it the belt itself sounds like it has a delusion of grandeur problem. I just hate the name of the belt. But the build up to the SummerSlam match, I actually really liked, because you had Roman Reigns and Finn Balor winning their respective Fatal 4-Way matches. Because Finn Balor is just now here from the NXT roster. He got called up. He was a former NXT champion, one of the longest reigning champions, although I think Adam Cole did break his reign. I think Adam Cole's still champion. So yeah, he did break Finn Balor's reign, but still a very long time with the NXT title. So yeah, he was up. That was me taking another swig of Yoo-Hoo. So every time I pause, that's me drinking my Yoo-Hoo to cool down. So they have Finn Balor defeat Roman Reigns, which mostly I think was because of his drug thing, his drug test thing that he failed. They were kind of punishing him for that, but still, pinning Roman Reigns clean at the time was just extraordinary. So then we go to SummerSlam. Red flag number 2. And most people at this point were like, all right, it's called the Universal Championship. Maybe it'll look cool. Maybe the belt will look cool. So we can just ignore the stupid name, or at least that's what I was thinking. I can ignore the stupid name if the belt looks cool. So on the pre-show of SummerSlam 2016, they come out, Mick Foley and Stephanie, and they come out and say, we're going to show you guys, which I don't know, looking back, even on the night, they really shot themselves in the foot with this. They unveiled the Universal Championship design, which is exactly the same as the WWE World Heavyweight title, except with a red strap. A blinding red strap. The ugly, it's not that it's ugly and grotesque. It's that it's ugly and boring. When the only thing interesting about your belt is the color of the strap, you have a problem. And they revealed it on the pre-show instead of before, because you'd think that they would have the match and reveal what the belt looks like before the match, or what I would do, whoever wins the match, then they go up and then they reveal what the title looks like to the winner, which is what they should have done, either before or after, not during the pre-show. I don't get that. Why? That makes me think maybe they knew the belt looked stupid, so they didn't want, ironically, they didn't want the crowd crapping on the performers or the match. Well, you see, because they unveiled the belt and everyone was it was an astronomical letdown and everyone hated it. When it came time for Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2016, which, by the way, I guess I'll go ahead and mention, that was my favorite match at that year's SummerSlam. I think it's an excellent match. I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, John Cena versus AJ Styles at SummerSlam, that's the best match of the night. I disagree, but that's a conversation for another day. I just think that Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins was a better match. You wouldn't know by the crowd, because during the entire match, the crowd was too busy shitting all over the belt. Every single time the camera panned towards the direction, the belt wasn't even on screen. If they panned the camera during the match in the direction of the Universal Championship, the crowd would start booing loudly. This is what these two guys are fighting for, and you can't even show it on camera because the crowd hates it so much, let alone people on Twitter or Facebook or the internet. So yeah, Universal Championship has probably one of the worst introductions of a championship in company history, or in pro wrestling history, as a matter of fact. And during the match, the crowd started chanting, "This belt sucks," to the tune of the New Day chant, which is hilarious. And "Hey, we want a new belt," which was they got that from one of the Bayley chants. "Hey, we want some Bayley." Hey, or "Hey, we want a new belt," because everyone hated the belt. And again, it wasn't like it was grotesque. It was just bland, ugly, and boring. It was just a shocking lack of creativity with the belt design. And I think it was the Colonists that said that they should have made the Universal Championship belt what they made the Intercontinental belt to be last year. The new design for the Intercontinental belt, that should have been the Universal Championship design. I mean, I would have went for that. In retrospect, anything's better than what they went with. Anything is better than what they. I swear to God, if they were like, all right, we're gonna listen to the whatever alternate universe, we have the Butterfly Divas belt instead of what the Universal Championship looks like, I would pick that, because at least, as stupid as the Divas belt is, at least it's semi-interesting to look at. It has a stupid name, but at least it's not. At least I don't get bored when I look at it, or at least I don't think of airheads, like a red airhead or a fruit by the foot, whenever I look at the damn thing. Or like I've said this before. I've told Skylar and Sean this. I would honestly rather have Jeff Hardy's god-awful, atrocious, hideous-looking, custom-made championship belt from TNA when he was a heel back in like 2011 than the Universal title belt we have. Because, yeah, that belt's ugly as sin, but at least it's interesting to look at. What is interesting about the Universal Championship other than the fact that it changes colors based on the brand it's on? That's not interesting. Although, granted, I will say I would much rather it be the blue strap than the red strap, because the red strap, it blinds you. It, like, melts your eyeballs. The blue is easier to look at. It's easier to look at. It still looks like a fruit by the foot, but I digress. So yeah, the coronation, the first match of the first Universal Championship match is marred by the crowd shitting on the belt. That's not a good thing. That is a harbinger of things to come. Now, they gave it to Finn Balor in an excellent match between the two, which unfortunately, this is another part of why this belt sucks. Because I've already gone into why the name sucks, or at least why I think the name sucks, and the design that was panned and people still don't like, even though we're kind of used to it at this point. So yeah, the name sucks, and the belt itself sucks. Now we're getting into why its lineage is the absolute worst thing about this belt is its history. Because forget the name, forget the ugly design, the boring, just a black hole of creativity that this belt is. The history, like, give the belt a good history, good reigns, good champions. This belt doesn't have that either. And this belt has been around for almost 4 years now. So, with the match that they had, with the crowd booing the belt the entire time, even though it was a really good match, and in my opinion, the best match of the show, Finn Balor wins the title. 24 hours later, he has to relinquish the belt because he was injured. Which makes me think that this belt is cursed. The first example of the Universal Championship cursed, and there are many. So our first world champion with our first Universal champion, has to give up the belt because he's injured the night later. 1 night later. So yeah, this championship is already off on the wrong foot. Which, I mean, it's not Finn's fault, and I wouldn't even say it's Seth's fault. It was an accident. And I know a lot of people like to throw insults at Seth, say, well, you injured Finn. It was an accident. Accidents happen. I don't blame either guy. But it's still unfortunate because the first Universal Champion had to give up the belt a day after winning it, so that sucks. So, what do they do next? They come up with, alright, we're going to have a Fatal 4-Way Elimination match between Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Big Cass. Yes, Big Cass was in this match. Why? I don't know. I don't know why Big Cass was in this match. Well, I don't know what he had done up to this point, but how many of you even remember that Big Cass was in this match? All things considered, it was a pretty good match. It was the main event of Raw, of course. It was a Fatal 4-Way Elimination match, and it was actually a really good match, and Kevin Owens won because Triple H pedigreed both Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, pretty much handing Kevin Owens the belt. And this was honestly, I would rather have Kevin Owens win clean, which, keep that in mind. But hey, everyone wanted Kevin Owens to win the Universal Championship, and he did. So at first, I was like, okay, this is the best thing they could have done. This is the best thing they could have done. Give it to Kevin Owens. People like Kevin Owens. He's a heel, but we're going to give it to him anyway, so we're just going to go with him. And then his reign actually started. And Kevin Owens' Universal Championship reign was awful. An absolutely shitty reign as Universal Champion. And it honestly made me think of Seth Rollins' first run with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which I also think was a shitty run, although Seth Rollins' run was less shitty. And the reason why I hated Kevin Owens as champion, it wasn't because he was a heel and because he cheated. It was because in kayfabe, like in the world of kayfabe, it got to a point where the idea of him even being a wrestler was ridiculous. It's not that he cheated that bothered me. It's that he was never able to retain the championship by himself. It felt like we were back to The Miz as WWE Champion back in 2010-2011, where The Miz never retained that belt. Not even clean, just by himself. It became absurd that he was even champion. Like, he had no business in a ring because people had to win the match for him all the time. And I hate that shit. Like, again, with Seth Rollins, most of his retentions were people saving the match for him, but even Seth Rollins won his match by himself a few times. There are instances where Seth Rollins retained the WWE World Heavyweight title by himself. Wasn't always clean, but it didn't need to be. It was just by himself. He defeated Dean Ambrose in the ladder match for the title at Money in the Bank 2015 by himself. He defeated Neville on Monday Night Raw for the world title by himself. He defeated Sting at it was either Night of Champions or Clash of Champions. I don't know. At Night of Champions by himself. He defeated Kane at Hell in a Cell for the title by himself. So he's retained the title at least 4 times by himself, and that was enough for me to not absolutely. I still didn't like his reign because he was way too much of a pussy heel. But still, he did retain the title a few times by himself to where it didn't bother me as much. Kevin Owens, I do not believe Kevin Owens retained his championship by himself a single time. And I'm sorry, but it makes the belt look like a joke. It's predictable. Every match he has, you know someone's going to run in and cost the babyface the match for him. And it was even at Roadblock, which was at the end of 2016, where Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens had an actually decent match for the Universal title in the main event of the show, and they end it via disqualification so Kevin can keep the title. God, I hated that. I hated that because I'm sorry, it's a slap in the face, at least to me, whenever you close out the main event of your show for the world title via disqualification. I despise that. I hate regular disqualifications because WWE uses them every show, and it drives me nuts. But for the main championship in the main event of your show, unexcusable. I can't stand it. So yeah, every single defense, Kevin Owens had someone save him. It was either Chris Jericho or Braun Strowman. And, I like Kevin Owens, but you should not have a super pussy, can't do something by yourself heel champion for months and months and months and months as your world champion. Maybe you can have that for if he was the Intercontinental Champion or the US Champion, I wouldn't mind as much. But if you have a heel chicken shit champion, they should at least be able to retain the title by themselves at least a couple times. Just to show that they actually belong in a ring. Because at a point I was like, where does Kevin Owens, in the world of kayfabe, because I know it's not real, but in the world of kayfabe, how does Kevin Owens get off calling himself a wrestler? Because he can't win by himself. And I don't mean non-title matches, I mean title defenses. Not a single one by himself, and it pissed me off. So, then we get to Fastlane 2017, which was a fun one. Let me take a swig of Yoo-Hoo real quick. And if you disagree with me on Kevin Owens' title reign, that's fine. I personally hated it. If you liked it, that's fine. If you disagree with me on what heel champion should do, that's fine. That's a discussion for another day. I'm just saying why I hated it. So yeah, your first champion had to give up the belt a day later because he got hurt. Next champion is a chicken shit heel over and over, to the point of just predictable lunacy. It was ridiculous. Then he loses the belt to Goldberg in a minute at Fastlane. Which again goes to show that Kevin Owens should have never been champion in the world of kayfabe. Now granted, he was distracted in that match by Chris Jericho because they had their whole feud going. But still, on one hand, the idea that Goldberg defeated Kevin Owens for a world title is depressing. On the other hand, at least Kevin Owens' shitty reign as Universal Champion is over. Because I fucking hated that reign. And wasn't happy about Goldberg being Universal Champion, but I was happy that Kevin Owens was no longer Universal Champion, if that makes any sense. So he loses the championship in a minute, because this belt is cursed. And then Goldberg, who can only have matches that last under 5 minutes, who's in the middle of a feud with Brock Lesnar. So it's Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33, and they actually had a very fun car crash match. It was a really good match. It was 4.5 minutes long. But then Brock Lesnar wins the title. So Goldberg, who just won the title in a 60-second match with Kevin Owens, loses his first title defense in under 5 minutes. This belt sucks. This belt has been around for almost a year at this point, and it sucks. It's just a pile of garbage. But hey, I will say I know a lot of people hated Brock Lesnar as world champion because he was never there. Because a lot of people are allergic to a champion that's not there every 5 fucking seconds. Me, on the other hand, I did not mind Brock Lesnar not being around very often as champion. It didn't bother me. I like a champion that's there all the time, and I also like a champion that's not there all the time. It doesn't matter to me. As long as I have a champion who can, Brock was honestly a breath of fresh air to me because at least, finally, Brock Lesnar, even though he's not there all the time, defends the championship and retains it by himself. His first title defense was against Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire. Great name for a pay-per-view, by the way. Not sarcastic at all, totally not. So he defeated Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire by himself clean. And this is almost a year after the championship was introduced. And for those of you that don't understand the significance of this, Brock Lesnar defeating Samoa Joe to cleanly retain the Universal title is the first time that anyone has successfully defended that belt by themselves. Not even clean, but by themselves. This is the first clean, by themselves retention of this championship, even though it's already a year old. This belt fucking sucks. How do you introduce a championship and have it not be cleanly defended to, establish a legitimate champion for a year? Are you kidding me? It took them a year to have someone finally retain the belt clean. This belt sucks. I'm sorry. So then Brock Lesnar goes to SummerSlam in that Fatal 4-Way match when Braun Strowman, and oh dear God, Braun Strowman's going to be quite the character in this podcast, this tirade against the Universal Championship. So it's Brock versus Roman versus Samoa Joe versus Braun Strowman at the height of Braun Strowman's popularity. And Brock retains clean again. So, again, people hate that he's not there all the time. Honestly, I'm just happy that we have a champion that can actually defend the belt. I'm starved for a champion that can win a match by himself. I'm in the desert, and Brock Lesnar is the first time it's rained in a year. It's been a drought. I'm just thirsty for it. I'm a thirsty boy. I'm sorry. Brock Lesnar, please, quench my thirst. Okay, this is getting weird. So yeah, I was just happy that I had a champ. Sure, he could be around a little bit more often, but I'll take a champion that can at least retain the belt by himself. And the match against Samoa Joe was really good. And that Fatal 4-Way, as much as I hate Braun Strowman, especially during that match, because I didn't understand his popularity, and I still don't, at least there were good matches. Good matches to retain the belt, so I'm okay, we're establishing a final boss, legitimate champion. Like him or not, at least we have a legitimate champion now. Then comes No Mercy. Brock has to defend it against Braun Strowman. And not gonna lie, the match was shit. But I was so happy. That Brock Lesnar defeated Braun Strowman at No Mercy. Because in my opinion, Braun Strowman isn't that good. And he has popularity that, in my opinion, is undeserved. It's random. I don't get it. I still don't get how Braun Strowman got as over as he did. How this immobile, cartoonish Godzilla creature got over with fans is beyond me, and I hated the fact that he was over. But at least Braun Strowman, and I don't understand how he didn't get a push, because he's a big dude. He's not that great of a wrestler. Like, a big, muscular guy that isn't that good of a wrestler, that is what Vince McMahon looks for. So I'm stunned as to why he never got a push. But, yeah, so Braun Strowman loses. Everyone's pissed off, and I'm happy that everyone's pissed off because fuck Braun Strowman. So, yeah, Brock Lesnar has 3 clean retentions for the Universal Championship. And then we go to the then we go to Survivor Series where he defeats AJ Styles in a fantastic champion versus champion match. And again, I'm just like, we have the belt sucks, the name sucks, the design sucks, but at least we have a champion that can win a match by himself. Thank God. And I will say, Brock Lesnar was Universal Champion 3 times, which in my opinion is 2 times too many. I loved his first reign as Universal Champion, but we're still in that. His other 2 reigns I hated, but I loved his first reign as Universal Champion because he actually did stuff. On a consistent basis, Brock actually did stuff as Universal Champion. So, then after beating Styles in the Royal Rumble with that really weird triple threat match with Braun Strowman and Kane, which again was just weird. I don't get it. It was a weird match. And then the bump in the road that was the WrestleMania 34 match with Roman Reigns. Keep in mind that WrestleMania 34, thus far, is the only time that the WWE Universal Championship, a world title in this company, has main evented WrestleMania. And it was the most awkward match to watch. Not because of the in-ring work, but because the crowd hated the match. Because this was during the Roman Reigns super push era, where everyone hated him. And even me, I like Roman Reigns, but I hated his push because I just didn't see him as the main guy. I like the guy as a wrestler, but I don't see him as the main guy. I never hated him, but I was like, yeah, I can see why the crowd doesn't like this match. And it was so awkward. They were chanting about everything but the match, and the only time they cheered was when the bad guy pinned the top babyface. When you're having the main event of WrestleMania, and the only time the crowd cheers is when the good guy, the main good guy of the company, loses, you need to reevaluate how you do your company. I'm sorry. So yeah, the first time and only time the Universal title has ever been main evented in WrestleMania history was that. This belt sucks. Have I mentioned that yet? I mean, the first champion to win it had to relinquish it the next day because he was hurt. Then we had a shitty pussy champion. Then Goldberg beats him for it in like a squash. And then Goldberg beats him. Then Brock Lesnar beats Goldberg. And now at WrestleMania 34, it's a shitty match because the crowd absolutely ruined it because they hated the fact that it was Roman Reigns and Brock again. But we're not done with Brock and Roman. Oh, we are not. Then we had the first Saudi Arabia show. And boy, doesn't everyone love them a good Saudi Arabia show. And this one was probably, in retrospect, the most annoying because this is when the announcers could not shut up about how progressive Saudi Arabia was becoming, which is complete and total bullshit, but it was annoying. It was propaganda. It was a propaganda show. But there was a Universal Championship match on that show. It was the Steel Cage match, Brock defending against Roman Reigns, Steel Cage rematch from WrestleMania. And while I enjoyed the work in the match at WrestleMania 34, they worked hard. They beat the shit out of each other. It was fun to watch, even though the crowd hated it. The match at Greatest Royal Rumble was literally just finisher spam over and over. It was a nothing match. And then the finish came. Roman spears Brock Lesnar through the cage door, which looked awesome. And Roman Reigns hits the ground first, which means he should be champion, but Brock is still champion. So a super screwy finish for this god-awful world title that does not do it any favors, and it makes no sense as to why Brock kept the title. Because one way you win a steel cage match is to escape the cage, both of your feet hitting the floor, and Roman Reigns did just that, but he didn't win the title. I don't get it either. So yeah. Fast forward a little bit, and then we have Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns again at SummerSlam 2018. And the way they went around this was they had Braun Strowman win Money in the Bank, and he comes out there and he says, I'm going to cash in immediately after this match. I'm going to just stand out here and watch and make both of you nervous. which I honestly kind of liked. Although I hated Braun Strowman, and I was terrified that he would be Universal Champion. So they have the match, and because Brock Lesnar ends up attacking Braun Strowman, he distracts himself, gets back in the ring, Roman spears him, and wins the Universal title. It was super controversial, it wasn't clean, but I was like, alright, fine, Brock Lesnar's no longer champion. And they did it in a way where the crowd didn't completely shit all over Roman. So hopefully Roman Reigns can have a good run as Universal Champion. Boy, was I wrong. So Roman Reigns is Universal Champion. And then, I think his first defense was against Braun Strowman inside Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell 2018. Which I think, in retrospect, is still a pretty solid show. Until we get to the main event. Because, for some reason, in this main event, number one, Mick Foley is the special guest referee. Why? I have no idea. And he actually screwed up some counts during the match. So just have the guy retire. Why does he have to be the ref? I never understood why they made him the special. It was just wackiness for wackiness' sake. Speaking of which, this was the first year that they introduced the red Hell in a Cell cage. And it looks like fucking shit. I cannot stand the red Hell in a Cell. It looks like a giant Twizzler cage. It looks like it's made out of Twizzler. It looks like a cartoon, and I cannot take it seriously. Even though Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton tore the roof off the building with their insane and awesome Hell in a Cell match on the first match of the night, they tore the house down in that match. It was still distracting because the red Hell in a Cell looked so stupid. Go back to the silver Hell in a Cell, because that's menacing. This looks like Candyland. What the fuck is this? I hate it. I hate the red Hell in a Cell. And so we also have a bright red championship inside a bright red cage. There's so much red going into my face that I can't stand it. I'm going blind as we speak. And then, with all of that, Brock Lesnar comes out, beats the shit out of both guys, and we don't have a finish. It's a no contest inside Hell in a Cell. Roman Reigns' first defense is a no contest inside Hell in a Cell. Have I mentioned how this belt is cursed yet? And then a month later, Roman Reigns had to relinquish the belt because he got leukemia. Because his leukemia came back. It's a real life thing, and it sucks. And I hate that he had that, and it was just unfortunate. It was not anyone's fault. But I swear to God, this is the second time someone's had to relinquish this damn belt, this stupid fucking belt. The Universal Championship has been relinquished twice now because of injury and now leukemia. I swear to God, this belt is cursed. It's not meant to have good reigns. It just isn't. Life will just... Whenever they finally have a champion that could be a good champion, life just throws a wrench into that. Oh, injury. Oh, leukemia. Oh, coronavirus. Like, the Universal Championship is cursed. I swear to God. So, the way to fix this was it was originally supposed to be Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar at the next Saudi Arabia show, Crown Jewel, which is one of the worst shows I've ever watched, not gonna lie. But it was at Crown Jewel 2018 triple threat match for the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns had relinquished the belt and he pulled out because of leukemia, so now it's Brock versus Braun Strowman. And I'm thinking, you're gonna be surprised to hear this, I was like, you know what, I hate Braun Strowman, but they need to put the title on him now. We need to have a strong champion. It can't be Brock because Brock just lost the belt after having it for over a year. You can't give the belt back to Brock. Give it to Braun Strowman. What did they do? They gave the belt back to Brock. Why? I still don't know. In a nothing match. And in my opinion, this was the end. This was it for Braun Strowman. And in the same year, he won tag team titles with a 10-year-old. So in the same year, he wins the tag team titles with a 10-year-old and then loses to Brock Lesnar again for the Universal Championship. Yeah, Baron Corbin hit him with the title, causing him to lose the match. And Brock just F5'd him over and over until he stopped getting back up. But still, Why did you give it back to Brock? Why didn't you just go with Braun? I don't understand this. When even I love Brock Lesnar, and I hate Braun Strowman. When even I'm saying you should have gone with Braun Strowman, we have a problem. This belt sucks. Have I illustrated that enough for you? Why I have such passionate, venomous disdain for this pile of shit belt. So yeah, Brock is champion again for some reason. The one good thing we got out of it was that he had an awesome champion versus champion match against Daniel Bryan at Survivor Series. And then he had a really good defense against Finn Balor at the 2019 Royal Rumble. So his second reign, I hated the fact that he had a second reign, but the reign itself wasn't that bad because he had some good matches. And then WrestleMania, Seth Rollins is on fire. Get it, burn it down, haha. Back before people hated Seth Rollins, he was. I know it's hard to think about, hard to envision this. Before Seth Rollins learned how to use Twitter, he was actually beloved. He was on fire. He was hot as a babyface, and they gave him the Royal Rumble, and then he beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35 for the Universal Championship. And I'm like, that's great. We finally have a babyface that people like that can be champion. Maybe his reign will be good. It started off good. He beat Brock Lesnar. Finally, it's like just Seth Rollins all the way. Yes. And for the first little bit, like the first third of his reign, things were going good. He had an awesome match with AJ Styles at Money in the Bank for the Universal Championship. That was a great match. And at this point, I'm like, oh, let's go. Hell yeah. Seth Rollins is a good Universal Champion. Finally, a good babyface Universal Championship reign. I feel like I've been wandering through the desert, and I finally found the ocean. Or a pond. Or a puddle. I'll take a puddle at this point. Turns out the puddle was poisonous, because you know what they did next? They had Seth Rollins feud with Baron Corbin for 3 straight pay-per-views over this goddamn belt. Completely ruining his momentum. And this was, again, before, I think this was right when Seth Rollins started acting like an idiot on Twitter, pissing everyone off. But the first step to his decline as a babyface was they kept having him in matches with Baron Corbin over and over and over and over and over. And no one likes Baron Corbin. He is liked by very few. Not even in a, oh, he's a heel, so I can't like him. It's in a, he's boring, and every time I see him, I want to change the channel kind of way. He has X-Pac heat. He has more than X-Pac heat, in my opinion. He's just bland and boring. But he kept having main event Universal Championship matches with Seth Rollins for no reason. But finally, after all that, Brock Lesnar wins Money in the Bank, somehow, because he wasn't a part of the Money in the Bank ladder match, but he just strolls in and wins, because I guess you could do that. Makes no sense. And then Brock Lesnar cashes in Money in the Bank on Seth Rollins after a match, and he's once again, for the third time, the Universal Champion. Are you kidding me? I was pissed because I was like, why is Brock champion again? Seth just took the title from him. Why is he champion again? And this is where Seth Rollins starts mouthing off on Twitter and pissing everyone off like an idiot. I still think that they need to come up with new contracts in WWE where if you work for WWE, you are banned from using Twitter. It will ruin your babyface push because you're an idiot and you don't know how to control yourself when you're on social media. Can Twitter itself just deactivate? Can we just deactivate Twitter as a whole, please? Twitter's awful. But still, Seth Rollins just shooting his mouth off, pissing everyone off. That whole stupid thing with Will Ospreay, trying to flaunt his in a total heel move, flaunting his paycheck like a douchebag, and got surprised when everyone gave him shit for it. So, he does come back and win the Universal Championship back from Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2019 in an absolutely spectacular match where he actually won the crowd over. So that just tells you how good Seth Rollins is. But his second Universal Championship reign is atrocious. This reign is probably the worst Universal Championship reign ever and one of the worst world title reigns ever. It starts off fine by beating Brock Lesnar in a great match at SummerSlam. Then he has an okay match with Braun Strowman at Clash of Champions. They did the whole, they were a tag team, then they break up on the same show, yada, yada, yada. And then I don't even want to talk about this next part. Then we have Seth Rollins defending the Universal Championship against The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Mistake number 1, which really killed Seth Rollins as a babyface. The Fiend is super creepy and he has an evil clown mask, which honestly is awesome. But he's still just a dude in a mask. And he's attacking Seth Rollins, and what does Seth Rollins, the heroic champion babyface, what does he do? He gets in the corner and starts screaming in fear. He starts crying, whining, like a little bitch. No wonder people hated him as a babyface. You have your babyface Universal Champion crying because he's scared of a dude in a clown mask. Whose idea was that? Whose brilliant idea was that? And this is before the infamous Hell in a Cell match that I'm about to talk about. So yeah. So Seth Rollins is completely dead as a babyface. Everyone hates him. So he goes into Hell in a Cell. And then not only is it a red belt inside a red cage, this is the first time they used the red lights for a Fiend match. So we have red belts, a red cage, and red lights. Can we stop with the red? Please. For the love of God, my eyes can't take it anymore. My eyes can barely tell what's happening. What is with this company and the color red? You're ruining the color red for me. It's one of my favorite colors because it's edgy. God. And the match sucked because Seth Rollins, they tried to make The Fiend this unkillable monster, and Seth Rollins literally hit him with like 10 curb stomps and didn't win. So now the curb stomp is dead, and you can never believe that as a finishing move ever again because I still have trouble buying it as a finishing move now because The Fiend got up from 10 of them! And then a pedigree, and then a bunch of weapon shots. And then the cherry on top, not only can we barely see because of the stupid light and the stupidity of all the finisher kickouts, and The Fiend, who literally you can't beat him anymore because you've built him up as unbeatable, like he doesn't feel pain. Then they end the match on a no contest once again. Because Seth Rollins has already attacked The Fiend with a giant mallet. A giant mallet has already been used in this match. So Seth Rollins grabs a sledgehammer, which is a little mallet, and hits The Fiend with it. So the referee calls for the bell. Why? I don't know. I still don't have a clue. And at the time, everyone thought it was a disqualification, which pissed everyone off. The amount of shit this main event received and deserved is just astronomical. It was insane how much people hated this show back in October last year. Myself included. This was honestly the moment I gave up. Not gonna lie. Because WWE as a company, I used to be invested in some of the stuff they did. Right now, it's either NXT, AEW, and New Japan. I do not care what the main roster WWE does anymore because why would you get invested into it? There's no point in getting invested into it. It's always gonna end up being a pile of shit. So 2019's Hell in a Cell was the day I gave up as far as caring about where they do things in WWE because just why get invested? It's always gonna end up like this. So, yeah, I still think it's hilarious, though, that they had a giant mallet, but the little mallet is too much. And also, they stopped the match because The Fiend is hurt and can't get up. What does The Fiend do 10 seconds later? He gets up, he's fine, and he kills Seth Rollins. Consistency much. You stop the match because he can't move. He can't get up. So what does he do? He gets up and starts beating up the babyface champion. So restart the match. Did they restart the match? No, they didn't. So why'd they stop the match? I still don't know. Can you tell that this pisses me off? So yeah, we have this, one of the stupidest matches. And also, this match, this Hell in a Cell main event ended in a no contest. Just like the year before ended in a no contest. So 2 straight Hell in a Cell main events inside Hell in a Cell ending via no contest. And both of those championship matches were for the Universal fucking Championship. This belt is awful. I hate it. This belt is cursed. It's cursed by injury, disease, and bad booking. This belt is the Black Plague. Well, it's actually the Red Plague. I hate this belt. So the next Saudi Arabia show, they finally give The Fiend the belt. They have him beat Seth Rollins. Thank God. At least they did that. And The Fiend actually has a semi-decent reign with it. Except half of his reign is with the stupid fucking red lights that make you unable to see his matches. Unable to enjoy his matches. But finally, at the Royal Rumble 2020, they got rid of the red lights. Thank God. And he had an awesome strap match with Daniel Bryan, because it's Daniel Bryan. Of course it's going to be a good match. So things are looking up. And then we go to the next Saudi Arabia Super Showdown. Goldberg's back. Why? I don't know. Goldberg, who just got off that awful botch-ridden match with The Undertaker and destroying Dolph Ziggler, he's all of a sudden in a Universal Championship match with The Fiend. Why? I don't know. And then he defeats The Fiend. The Fiend, who survived weapon shot after weapon shot, being frog splashed through a table, who survived 100 curb stomps and mallets of various size and shapes, loses to 4 spears and a jackhammer? Are you serious? There is no consistency within this company. It doesn't exist. Also, this belt sucks. And what sucks so hard about it, which in retrospect, given everything that's going on with the coronavirus, I mean, honestly, who knows? Who knows? But what they had an option here, because they wanted to go with The Fiend versus John Cena at WrestleMania. So, on one side, you have what they wanted. For the Universal Championship is Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, the spear versus the spear. Really? You want a championship match between two guys just because they have the same move? Really? When the only interesting thing about their feud is the fact that they share a move. The idiocy astounds me. I do not understand it. They have the same move. So what? Who cares? Wrestling is more than just a move. So you either have... Alright, so what they wanted was... Which program does a world title sound better with? Which program would be a better fit for a world title? A program where John Cena wants to break his own record, where he wants to be the first person to win 17 world titles in his career. He wants to win the Universal Championship to become a 17-time champion. More belts than Ric Flair. Meanwhile, The Fiend, the current champion, wants to get revenge on John Cena from defeating him at WrestleMania 30, avenge that loss, and his quote-unquote downward spiral that created The Fiend. You have 2 arcs converging into one match. They could tell a great story with that for the Universal Championship. You have that, or 2 guys do spears. That's it. That's literally it. On one side, you have 2 compelling arcs going into each other and clashing, while on the other side, you have 2 guys with the same move, and that's it. Which one would you give the belt to? If you have half of a brain cell, which I guess no one in WWE does anymore, it would obviously go to the more interesting feud. But no, they wanted to go with spear, 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 spear. Look at all of the spears they can do. It's a spear, guys. It's a spear match. I hate this company sometimes. So yeah, Goldberg defeats The Fiend it's so ridiculous. And it's the blue Universal Championship, which honestly looks better than the red. So it's Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. But then the whole coronavirus thing happened. And because Roman Reigns has a weak immune system and he's got leukemia, even though it's in remission, but it's still there, he has to pull out of WrestleMania, pull out of the main event against Goldberg. And what does WWE do? They slap Braun Strowman. That's like that meme where the dude, what's his name? Phil Swift. The Phil Swift meme where the thing's leaking out and he just slaps something on top of it. Roman Reigns pulls out of the main event, slap Braun Strowman. No reason. So it's Goldberg versus Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship with no build. Absolutely no build. Last second and they did nothing to build up the match except announce it. So, WrestleMania 36, it's an empty arena WrestleMania, which is so bizarre. And Braun Strowman, they have a shitty match, an awful match. Finisher spams, because that's all these two can do at this point, because Goldberg does not belong in a wrestling ring anymore, and I'm beginning to question if Braun Strowman ever did belong in a wrestling ring. Because in my opinion, he's yet to prove that to me. So, Braun Strowman's Universal Champion. And what's sad about this is Braun Strowman is finally the Universal Champion. Problem, he won the title 2 years late in a match with no build in front of no audience. This championship sucks dick. This championship belt is a useless piece of fucking garbage. And that's your current Universal Champion. He won the belt 2 years late with no build in front of no one. That's your champion. That's the main champion of SmackDown, and you wonder why no one watches. Who cares, honestly? And with the stupid things, back to WWE wrestlers who do not belong on Twitter, Braun Strowman pissed a lot of people off by talking shit about independent wrestlers on Twitter, pissing everyone off. So not only does he win the title with no build, with no crowd, 2 years late, plus everyone's mad at him because of some dumb shit he put on Twitter. Have I made it clear yet how awful this belt is? The design sucks. The name sucks. And the belt's lineage is fucking AIDS. This belt's history is a joke. This belt is a joke. You have the first person to hold it give it up because he's hurt. You have a pussy champion. Then you have a guy who holds it for a month for no reason. You have multiple, sickness, disease issues that cause the belt to be hot potatoed around different people. You have atrocious booking. You have injuries, disease, atrocious booking, and just shit. That is this belt. This is why I believe that the WWE Universal Championship is the worst world title in the history of pro wrestling. It's awful. The name, the design, its history, all three of those things are massive fucking negatives. This belt deserves to be thrown in the garbage. The damn thing's cursed. Throw it in the garbage, set the trash can on fire, throw a grenade in there, and then throw this destroyed trash can into the ocean. What they should do, what they absolutely need, they're going to keep the belt. And the Universal Championship is going to continue to be the shittiest world title of all time. Because, look at who's holding it. And the circumstances around him holding it. So yeah, this is going to continue being a shitty world title belt. Which, again, the fact that it's supposed to be the equal to the WWE Championship, that's laughable. That is a joke. The fact that it's supposed to be on par is ridiculous. It's absurd. It has not earned that. You cannot just say it is that. You have to make it seem like that. You've made it seem like a joke for 4 years. This belt has been a joke because of disease, injury, and awful booking for 4 fucking years. You have barely had one decent champion during this belt's 4 years of existing. One. And that one good champion you had, everyone else hates. Burn the belt. Set it on fire. Destroy it. Hell, what they should do is relaunch the belt, come up with a new design, rename it, and then the new relaunched, redesigned, renamed version of the Universal Championship, give it a fucking exorcism. Because this belt is cursed. Give the Universal Championship an exorcism. I swear to God, I'm not joking. This thing is a bad luck omen. This championship is so awful. I can't even put into words to describe how atrocious this pathetic excuse for a championship is. Just the worst world title. The worst world title in wrestling history is the WWE Universal Championship. They need to rename it. They need to redesign it. They need to relaunch it. The past 4 years of the Universal title, just scrub the history books. WWE's good at that. Just throw out the history books of the Universal Championship. Say, this is a new title. This is a new world title for SmackDown. This is happening. We're sorry for the 4 years of the red strap-on jockstrap belt. Sorry. That never happened. And I'll go with it. Because the Universal title doesn't exist anymore. Thank God. Seriously, get rid of the belt. It's useless. It devalues whoever holds it at this point. The worst world title. Okay. Have I made it clear enough to you guys how much I hate the Universal Championship? I'm fed. I'm just all worked up just thinking about it. But yeah, I've said it 100 times. The name of the belt sucks. The design of the belt is awful. And it has the worst 4 years of a championship ever. Like, again, the WWE title, it has some shitty reigns. It has some shitty booking from time to time. But it still has 50 years of history. And it has a lot of amazing moments that make that belt special. I actually like the WWE World title. Universal Championship is just a joke, and they need to get rid of it. They're not going to. They're going to keep it. It's going to be on Braun Strowman until whatever sad, poor sap comes along and beats Braun for it. Then their stock is going to drop just by being associated with the black hole of world championships that is the Universal title. And it's just going to go on until the end of time, until we all die. Because that's the world we live in. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to me rant and rave like a psychotic person about the worst world title in history. I'm curious. Give me your thoughts on the WWE Universal Championship. Does everything I've said make sense? Are there any points I brought up that you disagree with? Let me know. Now I'm going to go rest my voice for a little while. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to the Totally Awesome Podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.